Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, it's the grand debut of my newly built, very high rank Tinkaton that I got in a trade with a local of mine just this morning. This Tinkaton is 21312, it's the rank 58, and after testing it out in the Grade League, high rank Tinkaton is absolutely absurd. I paired it up with Shadow Sableye and Azumarill and went 11-1 in my first 12 games with the team, and the extra bulk on having a high rank Tinkaton was clutch in so many matches. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And we're off to the dream start in game number 1, Tinkaton into Guzzlord. Opponent save switches into Shadow Drapeon, and they are completely core broken to smithereens by Tinkaton. This is exactly where I want to see Drapeon on this team. I'm just going to stay in here and play this out straight bulldoze. Now, this is a winning matchup for Tinkaton regardless, but if you have a high rank Tinkaton, if you have a good enough defense stat, Poison Sting from Drapeon, the Shadow Drapeon, actually does 1 less damage per Poison Sting, and this allows this matchup to turn from a positive one into an absolutely absurd one. Because look at this, Shadow Drapeon, the king, is going to lose the 0-1 shield against the high rank Tinkaton. This thing is absolutely absurd. Now I just have the alignment that I want, so I get to put Azumarill on the Guzzlord. They're going to pivot, their final Pokemon is revealed to be Serperior, and this game is just completely over. There's just nothing my opponent can do from this point on. Serperior is going to bait with an Aerial Ace. Realistically, their only hope was that maybe they had Leaf Tornado, but even so, with a Leaf Tornado, they're still not sweeping with my backline having a shield advantage. From here, I'm just going to let this go. Sableye has done its job. It ends up being an Aerial Ace bait, and now I will go for the harder hitting Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam into Serperior is going to get Serperior deep into the red. There's the switch back into the Guzzlord. I send in a Azumarill, and here my opponent just stops tapping because they realize this game is over. I'm going to farm up just shy of 100 energy and connect with the Play Rough. This is double super effective damage. Down goes the Guzzlord. We farm down Serperior, but winning the 0-1 shield against Shadow Drapeon is what set us up for success. We move to the next game, Tinkaton into Blastoise. This is another matchup where being high rank Tinkaton is very, very helpful. So it is very much worth saving the Tinkatink that you hatch and trying to trade them with low friendship friends because the bulk difference is immediately apparent. Here, Blastoise, when they go for the double Hydro plus the rollouts, it actually does not knock out. I can survive this. So I'm more than happy to let this go, and then I can throw 4 Fairy Winds, fire off the Play Rough, and very comfortably win the zeros versus Blastoise. Blastoise is going to decide to let this through, and in comes Dewgong. Unfortunately, I don't get the Bulldoze there, so the Dewgong does get a healthy energy head start, and I'm going to send in Azumarill. Typically, Dewgong will try and play out this matchup by debuffing the Azumarill twice, as that's how you win the Zero Shield. So I have no plans to throw this energy. I just want the Dewgong to throw all of its energy, and then I can save the energy, reset the debuff, and it's Shadow Sableye time. Part of the reason why I wanted to run this backline is because I really feel like Azumarill and Shadow Sableye just have immense neutral play in this meta. Now I get to go for a foul play. They end up shielding because they want to apply an Icy Wind debuff, and that's very okay. I will be shielding back and just continuing to farm. I know that a foul play will not knock out here at -1, so I don't really want to throw the energy. Instead, I would much rather just look to overfarm quite significantly. It's a Shadow Annihilate in the back, and the only way I lose this is by baiting. Even when debuffed, Dazzling Gleam will still pick up the KO. I bank the foul play, switch into the Azumarill, and at this point, it's just checkmate for my opponent. They're going to let the Play Rough go, and we're able to get that win. We move to the next match, Tinkaton into Malamar. This is a dream lead. Malamar gets destroyed here. There's a safe switch into Corviknight, and I intentionally send in Azumarill. You can make the argument that I maybe should have brought in the Shadow Sableye, but I haven't played a lot of Shadow Sableye into Corviknight, so I'm not very familiar with that matchup, whereas the Azumarill Corviknight matchup, I've played extensively on both sides. And my goal here is I actually don't even want switch advantage. If my opponent is willing to commit a shield for switch, that would honestly be great. I will always concede switch in exchange for farm on Shadow Sableye, because I have 2 fairy types, but my third Pokemon has Dazzling Gleam. So if I can just trade the shield advantage for an energy advantage, I'm just going to be able to take this game by landing a Dazzling Gleam onto the Malamar. So the fact that they shielded for switch has played right into what I'm hoping to do. Now I get to send in the Shadow Sableye, and the moment I have a 4 Shadow Claw head start, This Malamar's days are numbered because I will make 2 Dazzling Gleams before they make 2 foul plays. I actually leave with a 5 Shadow Claw head start, which is even better. I farm up 5 more Shadow Claws and fire off the Dazzling Gleam. The only way I lose is if I bait, the Dazzling Gleam connects, in comes Swalot, and I can just do way too much work into the Swalot, so my opponent will resign the match. We see a great lead in the next match, Tinkaton into Morpeko. Now, Tinkaton can survive an Aura Wheel, but I would much rather no-shield the Aura Wheel when it's going to be resisted. So, I'm always going to be shielding up the Electric Aura Wheel and then looking to farm up. Bulldoze will hit for super effective damage, and it allows me to keep pace with the Morpeko as well. Morpeko is +1 attack, but since their Aura Wheel is now dark, I'm very comfortable no-shielding. Aura Wheel is going to get me low, but again, the IVs on Tinkaton coming in clutch, as now I can comfortably survive that, fire off the Bulldoze, and KO Morpeko. Opponent, they're waiting their clock here. They're going to send out a Sableye, and we get to the Play Rough. Oh no! Play Rough into the Sableye. It connects! Tinkaton on an absolute rampage as it almost KOs 2/3 of an opponent's team just by itself. Sableye just blind through a foul play in the back is going to be Shadow Drapeon, and this game is over. Drapeon will go for the crunch. I will always no shield. Here I'm actually going to under tap the Play Rough because if they no shield this, then I can just fast move down, and if they shield, then I can just switch into the Shadow Sableye and make the Dazzling Gleam. So I send in the Shadow Sableye, and I'm always going to no shield the first in case of a potential Crunch debuff. So I will no shield. Crunch does huge damage. They do get the defense drop, but I make it to the Dazzling Gleam, and we're going to be able to take another win here. As my goodness, Tinkaton, it just feels unbelievable to use in the Great League. We move to the next match, and it's a bit of a negative lead here, leading Tinkaton into Dewgong. Dewgong, of course, can hit for super effective damage with Drill Run, and I know they'll get to the second Drill Run before I get to the second Play Rough. A second Play Rough wouldn't even KO anyway. Dewgong is extremely bulky, so I will look to try and make a catch out of this onto the Azumarill. So Drill Run is going to land. They can only really throw there if they want to outpace, so it's a pretty safe catch onto the Azu. It is going to be the Drill Run that gets caught. Out comes a Wigglytuff, and I am incredibly happy to bait out the Wigglytuff. Here, my opponent is going to go for a Swift, but that's very okay. My Azumarill still has a lot of health on it, so very okay letting that go. And then I will be able to make it to a double Play Rough. Now, arguably, maybe I should go for an Ice Beam one of these times, but my thought process was I just want to guarantee a knockout and do as much damage as I can because I know Azumarill is not getting to a third move. In the back is Annihilate. I aggressively pivot into the Tinkaton, bait with the Bulldoze, and get the shield. Opponent is now going to make a nice catch of the Play Rough back onto the Dewgong, but this is going to take a lot of damage. Dewgong is going to get farmed down by the Tinkaton. In comes Annihilate. They have all the energy in the world, but I have a Shadow Sableye, and there's just no way for them to win that game. We move to the next match, Tinkaton into Shadow Drapeon. We've seen how dominant of a matchup this is for the Tinkaton. Here, I will actually play it slightly differently. I'm still going to go straight Bulldoze, but I will build up to a Play Rough to try and bluff my opponent into potentially shielding. Because a Play Rough, even though it's neutral, would do a lot more damage. So I farm up, fire off the Bulldoze, and I get a shield from my opponent. They try and catch a Bulldoze onto Dewgong, and I'm going to stay in here and get some nice chip damage with the Tinkaton. So Tinkaton, Play Rough is going to land. I rebank the Bulldoze. The switch timers are very misaligned, but I'm pretty okay with that fact. My opponent here, what they should do is just go straight Icy Wind because they will be able to make it so that my energy is going to be pretty useless until I'm able to switch out, and they'll be able to pivot here pretty shortly. I'm going to farm up and fire off this Play Rough. They know that they can take this move, so they're going to stay in here, absorb the energy, and there's the switch to Drapeon. I'm not going to throw this energy. I'm at -2. So what I'm going to do is no shield the Crunch because nothing from Drapeon is ever going to do a ton of damage. And now I will actually full send a Play Rough. Play Rough into the Drapeon does get shielded. That's a bit unfortunate. They can go for the Aqua Tail, but Tinkaton is always going to tank this. Aqua Tail is going to connect. I make it to a Bulldoze, a bit of a miscount there from my opponent, and Bulldoze landing just puts me in such a good position. I'm just going to let Tinkaton go. Tinkaton has absolutely done its job, and now I send in the Shadow Sableye. I believe this is only an Aqua Tail, so I will actually let this go, but Disaster strikes as a Crunch lands, and I lose so much HP. In comes Dugong. Dugong is going to go for the Icy Wind, and this is going to be a difficult game. They pivot out. It's a Azumarill. I bank the Dazzling Gleam for later because I need to reset that attack drop, and now we're back into the Azumarill, but this time staring down an opposing Azumarill. I would get knocked out here by this play rough, so I will be forced to use a shield, but every bubble that I throw, every play rough that lands, gets the opponent closer and closer to Dazzling Gleam range. What I'll have to watch for when I bring in the Sableye is make sure that they start their bubble. As long as they're in the bubble animation, they cannot catch. So I'm going to bring in Sableye, throw the Shadow Claw. I visually see the bubble start, so I'm safe to throw this Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam is going to pick up the KO. In comes Dugong. Can we survive? Yes, we can. 1 HP, and we're able to take the win. Great lead. Tinkaton into Shadow Drapeon, and the Drapeon is staying in. This works out very, very nicely. I am going to be farming up to the play rough and again going for a Bulldoze. Bulldoze is going to be no shielded by my opponent, and they are going to fire off some energy, which works very, very nicely for me. So Aqua Tail is going to connect onto the Tinkaton. They're going to try for a catch onto a Azumarill. I'm going to farm up a ton with the Tinkaton, and I will actually fire off a play rough before I look to switch out. Here, I think what I should have done was throw 4 in switch. I ended up throwing 2 in switch, but I think banking a play rough would have been slightly better. But I'm more than happy to absorb their Azumarill's energy with my own. So now we're in a matchup where 2 play roughs will absolutely knock them out. It's a range where maybe even a play rough plus an Ice Beam, we are approaching that range at the very least. It looks like my Azumarill is going to lose the CMP tie. I do have a very good Azumarill. I'm going to fire off this play rough. Play rough is going to get them now deep into the red. So I will continue to farm. Maybe I should have thrown sooner and picked up the knockout, but I wanted to exit with a lot of residual energy. But I think just not throwing there and KOing them, I've let myself get too low. That was a pretty big misplay. I can't concede the farm down. I'm forced to pivot back into the Tinkaton. So I think that was a pretty large error on my part. They shield, and it's a Corviknight. And the moment I see that, this game is a loss. Corviknight is a complete wall to energy from Tinkaton, which if you've played the main series games is pretty funny because canonically, Tinkaton's hammer, I believe, is made from like Corviknight feathers. So in the main series, at least according to the lore, Corviknight gets destroyed by Tinkaton, but in Go and in VGC as well, it is the exact opposite because Corviknight's typing is just such a good wall to any potential energy from the Tinkaton. Corviknight is going to be able to grab a shield, and then he's going to be able to switch back into the Drapeon, and there's just not really much I can do with this amount of Drapeon energy stored. I am going to commit the shield, but he's just going to wait the turn. Very nice patience there. Very well played to my opponent. I think if I had kept my Azumarill healthier, I would have been in a better spot, but I let it get too low. I was forced to pivot out, and then Corviknight proved to be a problem. We've actually got a mirror lead in the next match, Tinkaton versus Tinkaton. Now, I'm pretty comfortable with the fact that I'm always going to be losing the CMP tie here, although this matchup in large part will come down to who gets the Bulldoze debuffs. I did not get debuffed right away, which is nice. Now, I get my 50-50 chance, and I do actually get to debuff my opponent. I'm playing to the second CMP, which I will lose. I don't really want to stay in this matchup because it's always going to be a losing matchup for me. So after this Bulldoze, I'm just going to pivot into the Sableye. We get a second Bulldoze debuff. We're going to farm them down. They're forced to switch out into Shadow for Alligator. Now, this is a matchup where the opponent has to run a pretty terrible, as in a very high attack for Alligator to win the CMP tie, and they actually have it. My Shadow Sableye does win the cap tie against most for Alligators, but it appears my opponent is also running attack on their Pokemon, so they're still able to retain that CMP tie win. Foul play is going to knock them out. In comes Tinkaton. Tinkaton, very low HP, but after resetting the 2 Bulldoze debuffs, is able to make a Bulldoze of their own. In the back, that is not what I was expecting to see. They are ABA Steel with Tinkaton and Registeel. Registeel, in my opinion, is very, very washed this season. It's been washed for a while, and I just really don't see the hype behind it. We're able to get them very low. We switch into Tinkaton, and they're forced to throw energy because, unfortunately for them, there's just no ability for Registeel to ever farm things down. Now I get to send in a Azumarill. We are much too healthy, and my opponent will resign the match. Hopping to the final match, it's a familiar lead and a good lead leading into Blastoise. If Blastoise really wants to control switch advantage in this game, we've already seen that I can live the rollouts plus 2 Hydro Cannons. They're going to have to go down a shield, and if they go down a shield, then I'm very comfortable bringing in the Azumarill to absorb Skull Bashes and try and set up a 2-shield Shadow Sableye sweep. Hydro Cannon is going to connect. There's Hydro Cannon number 2, and I'm always going to be no shielding here. So Blastoise able to land that damage. Tinkaton now deep into the red, but Tinkaton is going to make it to this Play Rough, and Play Rough will pick up the knockout, and my opponent decides to let it go. They're going to send in Talonflame. I pivot out into the Shadow Sableye because Shadow Sableye is just so flexible. I love being able to switch it out, and this way I get to preserve the Tinkaton in case I need it for later. Shadow Sableye will make it to the Foul Play. Foul Play going to be shielded up by my opponent. And I get to throw 2 in the move, so I'm able to outpace and get this move before they get their fly. Opponent let it go, hoping they would live on 1, but they did not. Either way, even if they played out 2s with an Azumarill in the back and them having a Primeape, this game was aggressively over. I just get to send in Azumarill. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, Tinkaton, now that I have a non-Egg Hatch IV1, my opinion of this Pokemon has so dramatically improved. Honestly, from the start, even running a bad IV1, I thought it was still a very solid Pokemon, and I realized, unfortunately, due to the poor way that Niantic has released this Pokemon, it's very difficult to get a high rank, which I think is a genuine source of frustration, and it's something that Niantic should take under advisement, that with Pokemon that can be meta relevant, you need to make them accessible, because that way, people want to play this game, they want to battle, but if you make it incredibly difficult to get the good mons, then it's a lot tougher for people to battle. Like Galarian Corsola, for example, I never got a good one. I was still using an Egg Hatch one up until the day it got nerfed. Unfortunately, my trades just never panned out for it. I never had a good trade ready steal either. So in a lot of these circumstances, it would really benefit Pokemon Go PvP long term to have more accessibility on these new meta Pokemon releases. But yeah, that is my opinion on Tinkaton. I think it is an instant meta Pokemon. It's amazing, and if you are able to get your hands on a high rank one by doing low friendship trades with locals in your area, or even family members if you don't have a lot of friendship with them, it is absolutely worth it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.